strategy, basically on what you do once you've made your film. On the end down there, there's Rapp, who made Mojave phone booth, which is just screened today. Next to him is Billy Saleeby, who made Rollin'. Next to him is Danielle DiGiacomo, who works with IndiePix doing distribution online. And next to me is Leah Meyerhoff, who made Team Queen and Twitch. And then on my right, that's why I can't drive. On my right, I have Arin Crumley and Susan Buice, who made Four-Eyed Monsters. So I guess we'll start with you guys. If you just want to do a little brief description about your film and then how you sort of launched into post-production strategy. I know this is a long question. Distribution strategy, yeah.
Okay. No, you. Okay, me, I guess. Well, so has anybody here seen our movie Four-Eyed Monsters? A couple people. Has anybody? Okay. How? Yeah, how'd you see it? You saw it on YouTube and on DVD. So yeah, it's a movie that's, you know, it's about the creation of a relationship, Susan and I's real relationship. So it's kind of based in reality in some ways, but it's a narrative film. But it's because we're just nobodies, it's kind of like sort of difficult to distribute something like that. Like distributors don't want to pick it up. So what we did is we just built our own fan base on the internet by creating short online episodes that were about the creation of the film.
Have you seen the video podcast?
Has anybody seen the video podcast?
Is that how you got introduced to the project, or did that come after?
I saw the movie on YouTube first, and then I watched the blogs after that.
Okay, yeah. That's cool. That's more and more common that people are seeing the film and then seeing the video podcast. But before, like for a while, people had seen the video podcast and were like, "Where's this movie?" So because it wasn't available in any way. So what we did is we set up some screenings on our own and booked theaters in all the places that had the most people that already knew about our project. And we figured that out through our website and letting people join our Google map that we created on our website. And then that went pretty well. We got a lot of people to show up at the screenings, and then we released a DVD selling it through our website. And we did okay with that, but then the sales started to taper off, and we're like, okay, well, that's kind of that. But we wanted to bring the film to a larger audience, so not just the audience that we'd already developed through the episodes. We wanted to sort of like expose the film in a larger way, so we decided to post it to YouTube. And then coincidentally, it worked out well because we were able to get a sponsorship for doing that, and that was this deal where we would get $1 for every person that could that would go join spout.com. So that ended up being a really good actually business model for releasing our film for free, but still making money off of it. And because the film has gotten like around 1 million views, and about 5% of that, you know, translates to people actually doing what we asked them in the intro and joining Spout, we've made around $50,000 on the internet showing our film for free, which is kind of funny because that's more than we made selling DVDs. That's more than we made with our theatrical. So it kind of showcases a new potential, like where maybe it's not so important to like hold on to your content and not let anybody have it until they pay you money, which is the typical system. You've got security guards and like Virgin Megastore that won't let you walk out of there unless you've like paid for the stuff. Like everybody's like, you know, got security lockdown on all the content out there. But this is the other kind of way of like, no, take freely, whatever. We've got sponsorship on there, so that's how we're getting our revenue, and then things can spread.
And we still, even though we've shown it on YouTube for free, we're still going to be able to probably get a TV licensing deal and a retail DVD distribution deal. So it hasn't like limited in any way our ability to do more things with the film.
Well, I have 2 separate short films, and so with Twitch, which is the narrative short, I started off with a more traditional distribution model, which was selling it to IFC to be on TV, and then after that, doing DVD sales myself off my website and through IndiePix, and a bunch of like the Slam Dance compilation, a bunch of film festivals also put out short film compilations, which I have yet to really see any money from at all. And also I've started doing more online distribution. So there's R Stage and there's B-Side, and there's kind of these new websites that are now putting a lot of short films and feature films up for online distribution. And with my newer project, Team Queen, which is a music video, I learned a lot from my first experience of, you don't really need to hold off. And I mean, kind of what Arin's saying is that it's actually helpful to just get your project out there no matter what. And a lot of filmmakers, I think, are afraid to put their films online because they think it's going to hurt them in terms of film festivals or in terms of selling the rights. And actually, I found that to be not the case. And having my film online led to selling it to Logo and MTV, and led to, like, if you can build a buzz around, especially with shorts. I don't know, features, it is a little different, I think, sometimes. But if you can get an audience for your film, it can only help you. And I think that's something that is a new kind of exciting thing that's happening. Now it's Danielle, looks like she wants to talk more about.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm a filmmaker. I started off as a documentary filmmaker, and then I got into distribution and started doing the whole festival thing. And honestly, that was much more of an education for me than film school, to actually meet filmmakers and know, that you have to go to festivals and you have to try to just all these different ways with the internet and with DVD sales and theatrical models of distribution not being viable for, say, short films or most feature films, actually. There's all these new models of distribution. And with my company, we do DVD and online, and we put together shorts compilations, which Leah has a film on one of our shorts compilations. We do download to own, and there's just, I mean, it's very difficult. There's so much out there right now. There's so much content, and there's so many new ways of monetizing that content and getting it out there. And I'm still learning myself, but I mean, I'm just here to speak of the different ways and what I've learned as a distributor, how to do that. And I mean, every film is different, and every film is going to have a different life after it's made. But coming from the perspective of being a filmmaker, thinking, okay, I'll just make this film and then Miramax will buy it because it's really good or whatever. And, I think that filmmakers now, like the Four-Eyed Monsters and have to be much more savvy. And I think that self-distribution is a possibility. What IndiePix does, which is kind of, we help distribute, and the filmmaker has to put work into that too. And we do viral marketing and events and things like that. But I mean, I just think there's so many different ways with the internet and Web 2.0 or whatever to get your film out there that, filmmakers need to learn this stuff. And, we can talk about that more later, but yeah.
Hello. I agree with what you all are saying about where we're at right now. It's a pretty exciting time, I think, for film distribution, and I have to give a lot of respect to you two guys who I haven't met yet, but I've been to your site, I've seen your podcasts, very inspiring, truly. Like, I'm very impressed. And if you haven't checked out their website, it's allowing people to interact with the filmmakers. It's allowing them to put comments. They have video comments, all this stuff. The podcast. I mean, actually pulling them, say, where do you want us to show up? I mean, this is the way, one, you could get a feel for where your audience is, but especially if you're going to do self-distribution, you want to go to the places where you are going to have more people likely to show up. And I think what they've done is groundbreaking, truly. And I have a film here in the festival, and I'm actually here to learn from everybody here as well. So I just want to say awesome job to you two guys. Really, truly. My film's called Rolling. It's about ecstasy, and it basically takes place in Los Angeles. It follows 8 different people who use the drug to various degrees. You have the real, pro, the ecstasy dealer, and then you have the person trying it for the first time. And it kind of is a glimpse into this world of people who use the drug. And we try to paint an objective picture of what it was to be an ecstasy user, and not kind of say, oh, it's all pro or it's all anti. We weren't trying to do that. We just wanted to put a mirror up to what exists in this culture. And we've been very lucky. We've been to several festivals. We're real excited to be here as part of this festival and share it with New York. So yeah, that's basically what it's about. But like I said, I mean, I'm excited to learn all this new stuff as well, because it is all about, creating new paths. And especially in this age that we're in right now, it's all sort of new, and if we learn from each other, it's going to allow us to grow, and it's going to allow us to make things happen. I think more quickly than it otherwise would. And I'm going to pass it over to my boy Jerry.
I think everything's pretty much been said. So, yeah. My film's called Mojave Phone Booth. It was a low-budget film shot on a shoestring budget. We actually brought it in for $50,000 to get it in the can under the SAG experimental waiver at the time. Distribution is just a really weird animal, and I'm glad we're talking about it because these guys at the end represent the kind of the new direction of distribution and what the potential is out there. They have definitely a presence on the web, and anybody who has any kind of is exploring what's going on in film knows about these guys because they're very savvy in getting themselves out there. And you can really see a diverging line happening, I think, with traditional distribution and what's happening now, which is the on-demand stuff and the power of the individual online to create their own web presence, their own selling portal, all these things. It's really great. My experiences with distribution have been very bittersweet, mostly bitter. This is my 4th feature, and all of the 3 features up to this point have kind of horror stories associated with them with distribution. John and I are both kind of like 20-year veterans in the business in independent film, and when we met and decided to make a film, we said we wouldn't fall victim to the traditional distribution pitfalls. It is true that you have to kind of select the worst of the evils that you decide to sign with, and we said we're not going to wait for somebody to take our film out and market it, and wait for the Philippines to give us our $5,000 and have all the excuses for all the expenses they had to pay for, and that's basically what what you will go through. I think I hope you don't have to go through this, but typically people just are always on spec. If we sell your film, you'll get your money, and then it takes forever to sell your film, and you almost never see money. But we said that with this film, we wanted to make it so low that somebody has to buy it kind of all in, and we made a $50,000 film. If somebody buys it for $200,000 and just takes everything, all the rights, we said that would be sufficient to allow us to continue to make films. And so we kind of went at this in a different way, and we're really holding out. We have some stuff circling with Showtime right now because one of our actresses is Annabeth Gish, who's in a series for Showtime. So they're very excited to have this film and show this. Netflix is also now hovering around to distribute it on DVD. But we're doing it in kind of a weird way where we're going to premiere it on Showtime and then distribute it on DVD later. So it's kind of an interesting model that we're working with. But I have great respect for people who buck this system and do it their own way and display, because I really believe that distribution is at a crossroads. Everybody's aware of it. Distributors are kind of running scared because the power is coming back to the people, and I hope my preference would be for them to fade out and not have the power they have over us as filmmakers. So let's do it. Let people stop watching films.
So I guess, one of the things, I sit on a lot of these panels now about new distribution and sort of marketing through the web and creating your audience online. And one of the things that I have always said, and I sound like a bit of a school teacher when I say this, but I do think that one of the really key things is to be really strategic and not try and sort of copy somebody else's model and plonk it on your film and assume that it's going to work. Because I think part of what marketers are learning and distributors are learning across the board is that you really have to think about your film and who your audience is and be incredibly strategic about that online. But when I say this, I think one of the things that the filmmakers, that I speak to a lot are like, yeah, so where do I go? Like, literally, which websites do I use? How do I find the tools so that I can actually go out there and do this? So it'd be really great if you could just talk a little bit. Obviously, using the experiences of what you've done with your film, but also like what other filmmakers can then go, which websites should they be checking out? Where are the tools for their toolbox when they're doing this themselves?
Well, do you want to talk about some of the tools that worked well for us, and then I'll talk about some of the newer ones that we're looking at?
Well, I'm just thinking, what do you mean in terms of like
how did we actually do what we did? What did we use?
Right.
I think one of the things when, obviously For Ed Monsters, you guys are like you're the poster children for this. We're always like, look at these guys because you've done amazing things. But what a lot of people say is, I'm technically a little bit illiterate. I know I can make films and I can use Final Cut, but I have no idea. I don't know what a widget is.
Any social networking site that anyone's ever heard of have a profile on it, either personally or as a filmmaker. So if it's Facebook, MySpace, YouTube. I have a personal one, Arin has a personal one, and we have one for the film Four-Eyed Monsters.
So you want an online identity for yourself and an online identity for every project that you put a lot of time into. So and with your online identity, you basically want to be, like Susan said, in as many places as possible with that same identity. So you want to pick something out that's like not already totally utilized. Like Four-Eyed Monsters is a really weird, like 3 words to put next to each other. Anything will do. You need a website, but it could be as simple as a blog spot. That could be your website, you know. One of the cool tools right now that is not that hard to do is TubeMogul, like TUBEMOGUL. And what you can do on that site is you can upload a video to there once, and it will re-upload it to 9 other websites for you. So it'll go to MetaCafe, and it'll put the video on YouTube and all that. And so that's a really good tool for having a like an online show, which is, you know, if you only have one video, it's kind of useless. But if you're regularly putting out videos, that's a really cool website. And I don't know, there's just stuff like sprouting up all the time. And the thing is to, you know, this talk comes up about like, oh, what about like people that are not super web savvy? Well, you know, what if you don't know how to operate your camera? Well, you're going to have to get somebody who does, you know. So there is a new role that in filmmaking that hasn't really like been given a word yet, but it's the person who knows how to harness the technology like on the web and get the film out there, and who can make some weird, cool links in HTML that can be, you know, embedded other places and can do some of that fancier stuff.
I guess like you might hire a cinematographer or an editor. You might want to hire like a programmer or a web person.
Or get them to be a part of the team, like, and from a voluntary perspective, and then, you know, or do it yourself. Like, but we don't do everything ourselves. We work with Brian Churls, who's done a lot of like our custom Google Maps stuff and a lot of other just complicated things with our website. We use WordPress for our website, which makes the whole website basically a blog. But, you know, that's kind of a little bit complicated to install, but really, you know, not that hard to maintain. So, you know, the tips about like actual tools to use could go on and on and on, but the principle is basically use whatever's out there. Have a shooting people profile, you know, use IndiePix if there's a way that you can utilize that. Be on Spout, you know, like interacting, looking at different people's blogs, commenting on different people's blogs, linking to it from your own blog. Even just having a blog is like, you know, surely everybody can have a MySpace profile and a blog. That's really not, I don't think that's asking too much. And a YouTube account.
So Leah, what's your online presence like?
I mean, I agree with what Arin's saying. I think it is a matter of making an online identity and putting it out there in as many places as possible. And for some people, I guess if you're completely web illiterate, I mean, it's a hard question to answer, because to put yourself online, you need to know some tools. For myself, I made my own website. I looked into hiring someone, and it was very expensive. So I just, you know, downloaded the manual and read it and taught myself how to just add photos, make links, like very basic stuff, and then HTML, made my own website. And it totally works. You know, it gets the job done. It doesn't look super fancy, but it works. And with the blog, same thing. I use WordPress, so it's wordpress.org, which basically it's set up for you, and there are a lot of different ways to do it. But for someone who doesn't know much about anything, it is easy enough to at least make yourself a blog. MySpace is good too. I mean, I'm all for also working with distributors, working with IndiePix, or, you know, there's something called Dovetail, which is great. There are a lot of websites out there that all you have to do is send them a DVD, and they'll do everything for you. They'll upload it. They'll do the QuickTime. Because the problem with, or I've found with self-distributing my stuff and self-promoting, and probably you guys are finding it too, is then you're not making your next film. You start really getting bogged down in promoting and distributing. And so it's really finding that balance of putting yourself out there, but then at a certain point handing it off to other people, so that you have time to make your next project, you know?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak about the web because I think they've covered everything, but I do think, for example, with IndiePix, what we try to do is we take on projects and we say we're going to manufacture your DVD and we're going to market it and we're going to put it on our website and link the trailer from YouTube and Veo and all these other sites. But you, as a filmmaker, have to put in the work too, because we can't, I mean, we just don't have the infrastructure to do that for all of our films. So it's kind of this partnership, because honestly, self-distribution is a full-time job. And there's this line of like, how do you spend all the time updating MySpace and updating your blog and updating your newsletter, which I get your newsletter like every month, and she has a good newsletter.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Constant contact.
Right, which is...
You just type it in, and it sends out a monthly newsletter. So every time I go to a film festival, too, I'll have a mailing list. So I have, like 8,000 people who get my monthly email of what's going on. So there are ways to minimize what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean,
want to spend all your time.
Right. So I do know filmmakers who spend all their time self-distributing, and also for that, documentary is kind of my field. Self-distribution through the educational market is also a very viable thing, and I don't know if we're limited to just talking about the internet and new models here, but
distribution across the board.
yeah, like for example, David Redman and Ashley Sabin, who have done 3 really great documentaries in the past 3 years. They basically do one every year. They make about $60,000 a year just doing educational college tours. They get screening fees. They have a deal with universities where they say, I mean, that's a very different model of distribution. That's kind of like the old school model where you let your DVD out to the educational market. They pay $200 to $300 for a DVD. And you can add an extra $300 or $400 for a screening fee and show up and get paid to do that. And they make their whole living they make about $60,000 a year just on the educational market. And that allows them to move on to their next film. So that's another model, which is much more traditional, but also is very viable for filmmakers. And a lot of filmmakers don't really realize that. Yeah, there's other models besides like the Web 2.0 thing. And I would also say that, I don't know if the festival, going to festivals, it's not just about getting into, you have to be very savvy about which festivals you're going to, what kind of press kit you're making for that, how you're marketing yourself there. And yeah, I mean, there's all different ways of monetizing your film. And you just have to be up on that sort of thing.
I think it's critically important before any of this happens to just figure out how you're gonna who your market is. Basically, it's so critical. You need to know who the people that are gonna ultimately see your movie. And speaking for my film, we kind of have a general idea for the type of people that are gonna appreciate a movie about ecstasy. So we want to approach those people. And part of MySpace and part of all these different things are you have capabilities to actually seek these people out and find people who may if the term ecstasy is in their MySpace profile, you can actually find them and you can start adding them as friends. That's just one of the things that yeah, it's in their best interest. And those are good friends. Good friends. But absolutely. Absolutely. You would be amazed. Thousands. MDMA, thousands. You could go any one of these, XTC, thousands. It's ridiculous. We were talking about what if we contacted all the dealers and somehow gave them copies of the movie or postcards or something. It's about it's about the niche. We actually just talked about that today. There's a teacher that was in the audience today who said that she didn't know if she would be allowed to show it, but it may be something that could happen. I think our film is probably a little bit, we show negative, but there's also some positives that we do talk about, the connectivity and breaking down walls, that sort of thing, that losing inhibition. So I think that could maybe not be looked at as, worthy of the education environment. Yeah. MySpace, almost all, a lot of these sites, they have search capabilities. So you could either browse or search. So for us, we could go to browse, and browse you could put in the age demographic, location, you could put, and then you could also put key terms as well. As of right now, I think MySpace may be the best way, and it's kind of dying. I will agree that maybe it's on the way out, but as of right now, if you don't have a MySpace page and you have a film, you gotta do it today. It's critical. It's critical. You have to engage. The part of what I was saying about finding the market is you need to engage with them. It's we're one of the things that I've in my research is that I've been doing a lot of just trying to learn all this stuff, and part of the thing is just treating people like you would if you were like meeting somebody. So it's what that means is if they're gonna send you a message, you should send them back a message, and like be real about it, not some form type of thing. And it does take time. There's no question about it. So part of that is getting a team or getting a group of people that can help you. And if you're not technically savvy, like they said, if you're not going to shoot a movie without a cinematographer or edit a film without an editor, you need to find those people. And you can find people that can help you out, especially if they believe in what you're doing. And then you could probably work out a deal where you don't have to like pay them exorbitant amounts of money to do it. So it's finding people that believe in your project. And the other thing I will say is that it's just absolutely critical. The more inbound links you get going to your site, wherever to your main website, the better. Like they're saying, you need to have a phrase that's probably like a unique phrase, and it's either your title to your film or something like that that's going to associate you with your website. And then the more times you put that out there, the more links you're going to get going back to your site. That gives obviously more traffic. It also increases everything for your site. So that's the name of the game. It's exposure, finding people that can help you, that maybe know different things. And there is software out there. There's video software, like Two Mogul's great. There's other ones as well that you can do a whole bunch of different sites. So, but at the end of the day, I didn't know any of this stuff a year ago, and it's just about Google and just type in what you need, HTML, and it's not as difficult as you would think at all. It's really not. I'm not an IT person. I'm not I'm interested by it. I'm interested in the marketing aspect of it, but it's actually really simple. If you look at HTML code, it's so easy, and you just think HTML, I don't know that. I didn't go to school. It's not like that. It's really simple, straightforward. Google it. Just Google it. Honestly, trust me.
Well, my film is marketed toward anyone who's ever used a phone, so that's out there. This is going to date me, but I come from the days of message boards. I was on with the old DOS 56 modem. I used to get on the Writers Guild of America message board, and this is around when I directed my first feature, and I was trying to promote things there, and they would charge $5 if it ran for a week, because it was considered advertising. So you had to give your $5, and they'd run it for a week, and it'd just be a paragraph on. But now everything is completely a different landscape, and there's a way to upload your trailer to 50 different sites in one day, and you can't pay for that kind of advertising now. You can just spread things out across the world and get an awareness. We use MySpace to, if I know that I'm coming to a festival, I'll go on that site and I'll see all the friends associated with that festival and send them out a line and say, hey, we're coming to see you. Will you come to our movie? And I have had people directly show up and say, I saw your bulletin on MySpace. So I am sure that it works, and there's just so many ways to get your presence out there. And I was going to say, on your comment that was really good, when we went out there, we said to ourselves that festivals are kind of a market in themselves. They draw an audience. It's almost in some ways better than a limited release, because you can have the potential of people seeing your film. We hit our 50th festival. With this festival, we actually put aside a lot of money not a lot of money, but a good portion of our budget was put toward an entry fee, because we did know that we wanted to really get things out there and not limit it, and just kind of apply to everything pretty much and go where they took us. And that's been successful because we've had a direct one-on-one relationship with our audience. In times I've gotten to go to festivals, I've gotten to connect with the audience and have people come up and say, that was really, affected me or whatever, or don't ever make a film again or whatever they say. But it's been a direct correlation, and I think that's because of the time we live in, we can, and the power of the internet, we can make that happen. When you upload your trailer on 50 different sites, it goes to Google, and when they Google your film, it's almost to the point now where you don't even have to say, go to this website to see information about the film. You just say, hey, Mojave phone booth or whatever, and they type it in, and 50 different things come up, and so you can find it all over the place. And as far as I know, Billy, he's my hero as far as publicity. His presence is all over the web, and this guy is all about marketability, and maybe you should do that as a side business if this doesn't work out.
I think
but
the distribution is going to change where they're not just like distributors, they're marketing consultants, experts. Like I don't know what the term is now, but I think that's really where the shift is going to happen, because I think filmmakers, where they need help is just the marketing aspect of it, not necessarily the distribution, because it's changed. It's just changed so much. So I think this is going to start happening more and more, and I think we all just need to learn from each other, like I said earlier.
I agree that film festivals are a really important marketing tool. I mean, we're all here at I'm assuming a lot of the people in the audience are filmmakers who have films in this festival. I see a couple of you who are at the screenings, but same thing. I mean, my short film was in almost 200 film festivals, and I still keep sending it out. And every time you're in a festival, even if you can't go in person, there's an opportunity for more traditional press. I email the festival programmers and say, hey, will you send me a list of all of the local newspapers in your town, and have been able to get reviews of even a short film or even music videos in, like the Wilmington Daily News or smaller papers all over the country, but that kind of, a mixture of traditional publicity and then online stuff, and just getting yourself out there as much as possible. If you get people talking about you and your film, it can only help. And just people here who have films in this festival, even if, you're intimidated by all the tech talk of going, if, like having trouble with MySpace and so forth, at the very least, you can make postcards or flyers, go to Kinko's and photocopy flyers and pass them out at your screening. And the power of word of mouth, especially at film festivals where you're surrounded by filmmakers or people who appreciate film, is actually a really effective tool.
I mean, I think the lesson is that you just have to have a very fluid and adaptable approach, and that your distribution and marketing strategy has to be part of your creative strategy across the board, because I think a lot of people, you make your film and then you're like, help, I'm exhausted and I'm poor. And actually, like not thinking about marketing and distribution as being separate from your creative process is a very important thing for filmmakers, and very empowering, I think it sounds like, and something that's very possible now.
Arin and I don't have the biggest, most magnanimous view of film festivals, really, because we just felt like it was useful going in terms of connecting with other filmmakers, but it's not like we collected email addresses from the people that came to see our film. It felt very like limited, and then how many people can actually fit into these theaters? It just didn't seem like our reach was that far.
And the people would be just sort of who was happening to check out the film festival, which may or may not be the right kind of crowd for our film. And sometimes, especially when we were at the Waterfront Film Festival, people were walking out. It's like, there's too many cuss words in this movie. And like, it was just culturally way off base, because it's like a little vacation town.
Whereas it's true with MySpace, you can kind of do these searches for people. Like when we first got on MySpace, we started looking for people within a certain age group who were into photography, art, music, creative interests, because those are the kind of things that we are interested in too. And so that's who we thought would like what we were doing and who we'd want to be connecting with in any case. So when we started doing our video podcast, which is originally how we built our audience, MySpace was pretty much our main mechanism of reaching out to people and finding people. So I would find that a majority of our audience was like made through MySpace. And now there's other social networking websites, but I mean, the whole
podcast, you mean you podcasted the whole film?
No, we actually made like short videos that were in relationship to the film, but totally new, different content. But also, I mean, just having a MySpace, or like not even MySpace, but any social networking website, is that what you're allowing people to do is interact with you. If you have a website that's kind of like you're saying something, but nobody can say anything back. But MySpace and Facebook and like YouTube, it's like people can post comments, people can send you messages, people can send you videos, people can like send you photos. Like it's just more interactive. And I think it's that interactive experience that makes it more, I don't know, it's the way that you actually make a connection and retain like an audience, because there's a constant loop. It's not something where you just said something and then it dies on the vine. You know what I mean?
And you can take that audience from film to film. I mean, that's
Right.
the other thing, is you're creating an audience, a core audience, your core audience, who you can then be in touch with when you make your next film. So you're not lurching from project to project and starting, reinventing the wheel each time.
Yeah. But you mentioned sort of a like a divide, of like a generation divide or something. I mean, gap. I think that like we have to recognize that media, just in general, like filmmaking aside, like media and communication is just changing. It's just that simple. Well, it's not even a matter of talking about where does it cut off. Oh, at age X, it cuts off. It's not a matter of talking about that, because that would be like saying, oh, cell phones or emails only in a certain demographic. Yeah, you've got early adopters. You've got people who are going to be doing things before anyone else, and your 16-year-old son is all over MySpace and I'm sure Facebook as well. But the reality is that this is just signs that the early adopters are sending us all saying, listen, communication is no longer one way. It's not like we create and blast out and the, big companies decide what gets blasted out. It's now more organic than that. It's now more like things get created all over the place, maybe from people that are not even qualified to be creating stuff. I mean, we're basically, amateur filmmakers that just decide to make a movie about our lives. It's pretty, like, nobody gave us permission to do that. So then we do that, and then people start gravitating around it if it's relevant to them, and then they start interacting back, like Susan was saying. And we've gotten, 70 videos just in reaction to our film, where people are talking about their own lives and saying back at the screen, like, what they thought about it all. And so, and the other thing I wanted to say about the discovery thing is there's all this talk about marketing, and there's this new thing where we got to really push it out to the world in a new way. That's maybe what's going on right now, and we have definitely been a part of that, and you kind of have to. But what I'm hoping is that we get to the point, kind of like what we've sensed with the film being on YouTube, where the audience is like coming to it because it's reached a critical mass. Yeah, the entire film is now on YouTube.
Just to totally clarify, we had a video podcast, which were smaller episodes that were related to the film but not the film. And then at a certain point, we actually put the entire film up online for free.
Right. And so what we've noticed is that people will send us messages like, yeah, my friend, said I should check this out because it reminded, me. It's like, hey, people are just like spreading around being like, this will be relevant to you. So it's not like you blast it out like with billboards and things that attract everyone. It's more like organically the right people that would be into it will come to it. So if we're talking about a project that its demographic is very specific and that demographic is not necessarily online, well, the vision of this stuff is that it doesn't really matter, because eventually that demographic will be up on all of these different tools and all of these different ways of automatically discovering the content that is relevant to you. So at the end of the day, all you really need to do is one thing, which is just make good content that has, your integrity in it. And if you believe in it, then the system will work. Eventually, it might take about a couple more years for it to really get built out the rest of the way, but eventually there'll be a system that everybody gravitates towards it because it is relevant and it does have integrity.
And I suppose the thing is as well is the content of your film, and the whole film is about communication and using that. It's actually lended itself incredibly well to the websites that you then use. But I suppose that it comes down to strategy again. You have to think, what's your film about? Who is your market? It may not be people on MySpace right now. Maybe in 10 years. Who knows what's gonna? But you have to think about who your market is, and obviously MySpace was ideal because your film is so much about
right.
linking and connecting. And
but MoveOn.org has been a great platform for Robert Greenwald,
right.
For all demographics,
right.
and they use email and they set up screenings in people's living rooms. Brave New Theaters actually was another tool I forgot to mention. Right. Anybody can set up an account on Brave New Theaters, and then that makes it so that users can set up user-generated screenings, right. is sort of what it's referred to as. But we have that going right now, like screenings getting set up by our fans, like all over the place.
And a lot of documentary filmmakers, they'll work with nonprofits and in terms of social outreach. So it doesn't have to just be MySpace. That's where the strategy comes in. You think, okay, what's in my film? What's it about? Who's it appealing to? Where are those people? How do I connect with them? And I think that that's a really key thing. And you have to think about your film and who your market and audience are. Does anyone else want to speak to that? Can you?
I guess in general, this is going to sound really idealistic, but in general, I think that the internet as a tool of social networking, of getting art out there to, people in, let's say, Alaska or like Skokie, Illinois, or I just made that up. I don't know. Just random places where there's so many people who want to see good content, who want to see good films, and they're desperately lacking that because there's art cinemas in, let's say, 30 cities in America. But with the internet, I think people don't give people who don't live in major cities and are bohemian or whatever enough credit. I think that if I think about when I was in high school, I would have loved to be able to get this content on the internet. I would have sought it out, and I was just, moderating this blog panel and thinking about, the blogosphere, and there's all these people, wonderful people writing about independent film. There's so many people are underestimated, I think, in Middle America, and who don't live in major cities, and I think that the internet, any kind of social outreach and YouTube and any kind of way of communicating over the internet, I think the internet is really democratizing media. As much as you can say bad things about it, I think it's a tool that really gets great content out there to audiences who are really seeking it, and anything we can do to foster that is really positive.
I'll just be brief. One of the things she touched on, blogging, I think it is critical, because it's just another opportunity for you to engage your audience and give them a little bit of a glimpse of what you're doing as a filmmaker. Are you on festivals? Are you how you're marketing the film? Anything, and people are interested in this stuff. So creating a blog is very simple. My preference is WordPress because of many reasons, but it's very easy to do. You could pick your own template. It's just a great way to engage. WordPress.com. I think it's really an important part of the overall structure of your marketing approach. So, and then another side thing to that is using keywords that you think your market will be searching for, incorporating those into your YouTube videos, into anything and everything. Your MySpace profile, have these keywords in there, because when people go to Google or Yahoo or wherever they go, they're going to be searching for terms, and whether or not they're looking for your film, if they do stumble upon it, that's just another way for you to get that traffic into your site. And and social bookmarking and stumble upon Twitter. There's just so many avenues out there. One of the things I did was go to Wikipedia, just type in social networking. It'll give you all the list of all the social networking sites. Type in video, give you all the video sharing sites.
Another really good resource is Lance Wheeler's. There's this Lance Wheeler is a filmmaker who did a couple of, I guess, horror head trauma, but he wrote this whole guide of DIY marketing, and he's been doing really well, and so he has a whole I don't know how many page. It's kind of the definitive guide to.
And the name of his site also is the Workbook Project. Social bookmarking, it's great for several reasons, but one of the things that I found most interesting is to see what other filmmakers, such as you guys, look to see what you guys are. Do you look at our? Yeah, I've looked at everything. Oh yeah, you like jewelry. I know. It's kind of like, I kind of felt like a stalker. I'm like, wait a second, I know everything. Okay, I know where to get a bath massage in Manhattan. Or I'm like, I didn't want that information. But it's a great way, because that way you could tap into, well, where are these other people who are kind of doing the same thing as you? Where are they going? What kind of information are they getting? And it's about sharing that information. If they're going to Workbook Project, or if they're going to any one of these different filmmaker resources that are out there, then you can get clued into that via social bookmarking and the various sites that there are. But type it into Wikipedia, social bookmarking, it'll give you a ton of places to go.
On my personal YouTube account, youtube.com/Arin Crumley, I've been posting all of the panels that we've been asked to go to, and so far we've talked about different things in each one, but also any just kind of tips that we've discovered along the way. Some videos are going up there. So that's something else. There's
on foureyedmonsters.com, there's a tutorial page that has a lot, I think it has stuff about WordPress.
Yeah, on our tutorial, we try, and we don't do this with every single thing, but we try and for the most part say, okay, if we've done something, we got to flip around and show the backside of how that worked. Right. So on our website, just like we've got our feature film episodes, we've got tutorial. And so you go there, and now it's like you've flipped four-eyed monsters around, and you're like dissecting how it all works, and you see, oh, they used the Google thing here, and they did this, that, there.
A step-by-step manual for certain things that we've done, so that it's just you can just follow the directions if it's something you're interested in doing.
It's really like step A, do exactly this. Step B, do exactly that. So it's very specific.
Create a password.
Yeah. So it's designed for anybody to be able to do that, but it's kind of time consuming to make all those. But when I do those now, they're actually going into the workbook project as well. So Lance and us are all working together to try and create a resource that constantly updates, because we've discovered with our tutorials, you make something that says exactly how to do something, and then 6 months later there's a better service that comes along, and it's like, okay, now scrap all that, this is the new way to do it. So for that, I don't know, we're trying to figure out the best way to be all educating each other, because you can't even really go to school for this stuff. It just changes way too quickly. Right. So the real thing is that every filmmaker that feels like they've discovered, like, oh, this actually worked, this little aspect, post that in the blog too, because then other filmmakers can see, oh, this is what someone else is doing. And Self-Reliant Films is another blog that does that a lot.
That goes back to you checking out Delicious and bookmarks and stuff, is I think a lot of filmmakers are making a serious effort to keep their process as transparent as possible. So that, you don't even necessarily need to come to a panel to get all this information. It's like this stuff is constantly being updated, and everybody is able to look at what everyone else is doing. And I think that that's like a really important reference. And like for you yourself, as you were doing stuff, like it's useful for the rest of us if you're telling us what you're doing and like how you're succeeding or what's failing, stuff like that.
Because and we learn from obviously the stuff that other people are doing too. Hanging out at film festivals, we got into conversations with other filmmakers and other technology people, and we're just like, shouldn't it work so that if somebody wants to see a film, it can just get booked in their local area, especially if a lot of people are interested in seeing it. So we wanted to try and create an example of that with our film, where we could say, okay, these people who know about our film have basically all raised their hands. Ooh, I want to see it. So then we're like, okay, well, where are the people in the LA area that want to see it? Oh, they're all right here. So what's at the center of that? What's the epicenter of, okay, it's actually like near Santa Monica or whatever.
Like one thing we should say is that as we were getting more exposure on MySpace and people were asking to see the film, we were like, okay, that's neat, but like, where are these people? Like, because we didn't have any strategic way of looking at where each person was. Right. So what we started doing is we asked people to give us their email address and their zip code. Yeah. So that then we could figure out like where these people were, and if we ever were able to book a screening, we could send them an email.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we did with the map. We looked at it and we said, okay, Susan's idea was that they should be hearts, showing the larger the heart is, the more demand there is. So we decided, actually we found through experimentation doing some screenings, that it's about a 1-to-1 ratio for people, requesters, versus who shows up at a screening. So then we were like, okay, if we're over 150 requests, which is a different sort of size heart, then we will go through the trouble to actually book the screening. And then what we did is we created a sort of a fan base management system. And in any company out there, any generic like company that goes out and cleans carpets or whatever, everybody has like client databases. Oftentimes they're custom, and usually Access is the way that people put together their custom database. But that's another thing Brian Churls helped us out with, is creating this database of all these people. We know their zip codes, we know where they are, and so we're able to create a query to that database. Okay, give me now all the people in the Boston area that requested the film. So their email address is spit out, and then we do a custom email. Hello, Boston. We're coming there. We're going to be there for a Q&A, and make it as personal as possible, rather than this thing where we blast out everybody on our, thousands of people who are nowhere near the screening,
This stuff too, this is all stuff we had to get Brian, our programmer friend, to help us with, because we don't necessarily have the ability or the time to be working on these things, but we saw the need for them. But eventually, I think like the stuff that we did with the map, I think that that's just going to be a tool that anyone can do. Right. But at the moment, it's like not. And
it's going to be effortless eventually anyways. I mean, even on spout.com, they let you check off movies that you're interested in seeing. And that's the way I use the website, because I lose track of all these films people recommend to me. So now I've got a list of all the films that I plan to see. Well, isn't that the same thing as requesting a film? So pretty soon, I mean, whether it happens at Spout or some other website or some other service that we don't know about yet, it's gonna be very common for people to be keeping public information about things they're planning on seeing, and then for even studio films to base their release or re-release strategy on, oh, well, there's this like incredible interest in this documentary. Maybe it's because it's about the people in this town and it can sell out every night. You know, maybe it should just book in that town. So it's sort of like when they originally created the United States, like the whole like federal government versus local government thing. It's like movie theaters are, I think, going back more towards like a local, because it's your local movie theater. It's your like community center, basically. So that's kind of like where we're hoping to see that stuff evolve. And festivals are kind of like sort of filling that void as it is. Like, well, what do we want in our, we're going to book this and screen that and whatever. But I think that ultimately the curation that a festival does is going to even be passed along to like just general people browsing the web, searching for things, getting told about things on the subway, flagging things they want to check out, and then the interest can be measured and then things can be booked that way.
And this is talking a little bit about theatrical distribution and where it's going. I think that's a really good point, though, because I think a lot of even like the Indiewood studios are still not taking the risks that they should be taking, and they're still shooting for middle-of-the-road films, even if it's like documentary that they think are going to appeal to everyone, because they're not yet like using these tools that are going to say, this is where the interest is in this community. They're kind of looking at the whole of America and the lowest common denominator because they're not willing to take risks. But if we start using these tools and kind of target different markets, then hopefully that will even change the face of independent theatrical distribution, I would like to think.
Well, I'm making a feature film now, so it's very different. But I'm definitely going to take what I've learned over the past few years and learn how to find my audience now before I even make the film. And so that in the same way I have more of a target. So I'm not just putting it out there for the whole world, but these are the types of people who are going to want my film and trying to get it to them as quickly as possible. And I think what you can learn from just this panel is that there's no one way to distribute your film. There's a lot of different ways. And it's really just finding what works for you and what works for that specific project and getting yourself out there as much as possible. But you don't need to go along with the traditional model of getting discovered and, making this huge studio deal. There are all of these other ways to do it yourself or to work with smaller companies who'll help you. We want to do some things with our website that'll make it a little bit more interactive, add like polls and surveys, which will, allow them to kind of talk about, people that are going to our site, they have some experience with the drug or are interested in it. And so like having something about like, where they could even talk in like a forum, like, talk about your first ecstasy experience or talk about how many pills you've had or anything, or like bad experiences. And so that's just another way for them to interact. Another great idea is doing some sort of podcast, either, audio or video podcast. One of the things that's great about your guys' podcast, which I really appreciated, was that they all had drama. That was important. But most importantly, I think they all ended on almost like a cliffhanger, and it made you want to watch the next one. I think that really sells the podcast, because at the end of the podcast, if they kind of feel like it's all done, then they're not going to be inspired to watch the next one. And so if you do this, every couple weeks or every month or whatever, it's going to get people coming back, especially if they subscribe to what you're doing. So that's another thing, is just getting people to subscribe to what you're doing, or have them join your mailing list and then do a newsletter. Like, I would love to get your newsletter, because that's just another way for you to, embrace the audience that is going to watch your film.
Yeah, it's so much has been said on this, but it's a whole new world now with technology. And, I started with 35 millimeter feature. We had to make an answer print. We had to deliver things in canisters to film festivals. And now it's there's no problem shooting on digital and projecting in digital. In fact, it's kind of become a standard almost. It's more convenient. What I see happening is that we're going to go beyond the media, the physical media. And I really see that as the next stage, where you'll go to a theater in 3 years and they won't even have canisters with films, or even a tape. They'll download a file, and project that, and it'll still be a social experience. But I think the media, the actual physical media of film, is fading. And I think if you want to look toward the future as far as what you're making as far as a film, that's one consideration, because it's basically two paradigms colliding. All these theaters are still set up to show old school projection systems, and And everybody is slowly but surely making the transition to direct, on-demand kind of stuff. And it's happening in cable. It's, you know, even someday probably the idea of the DVD will be obsolete. And I've seen so many things happen in just the short time I've been making films. So I think just always keeping an eye toward the shifting technologies is really important, because it's moving so rapidly, and you don't want to get caught in an old school philosophy and thinking an old paradigm when everybody else is doing it a different way. So what I'm trying to do on a daily basis is just really learn about what's going on out there, and trying to keep an eye on the shifting patterns. As far as what we're doing for our film next, we're just waiting for Showtime to say yes at this point, and I would basically show the time. This is another great thing about distributors. They don't have to pay you until they actually premiere the film, and then they don't have to pay you for like 60 days. So they'll just wait till maybe an act of God will happen between that time, and they won't actually have to pay you. There's this really interesting group in LA that's a group of professional writers that have joined forces. There's like 12 of them. They're all A-list writers, and they're trying to cut out the idea of the agent having power in Hollywood to some extent. Just reduce the power that the agent has over us. I'd like to see the same thing happen in distribution. I'd like to see filmmakers get so autonomous that they don't need to go out and pander to some distributor and wait, and because sadly enough, you can make your film and have all your momentum and the train's roaring forward, and suddenly you're in distribution, and then everything gets delayed and screwed up, and you can get really discouraged by that process. I think if it was as smooth through distribution channels as it is through making a film, it could just be a really nice experience. So boycott distributors.
The one really important thing is universal publishing of completed projects. So instead of publishing to YouTube, and you're publishing here and there, and you're making a DVD, and you're giving a master to the TV station if they want to do something with it, I think that soon there's going to be a format that you could publish on the internet in full quality, and from there everything will pull out where it needs to go. And I think that's a key component to this kind of automated distribution that will be this nice experience that you're talking about. So that's one. Then the second thing is universal social networking. So we get past the point of it all happening at MySpace, and then that kind of passes. Now it's all happening at Facebook, and then that'll kind of pass. But instead, every individual, just like your email address, you kind of are in charge of your own sort of social networking information, your own about me, your own sort of, these are the people I'm friends with and stuff, rather than it all being housed on some external website. So that, yeah, sure, external websites can pull that and use it, but it's not something that gets you locked in, because we're now locked into MySpace, and now everybody's using Facebook, and so we're trying to build up our Facebook group. So that becomes problematic. So those two things, as you're seeing those things start to occur, those are the type of things you want to embrace, and try and not embrace things too much that are all proprietary and closed and all that.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks to the panel.